Welcome into our weekly call. Happy to have everyone here. Dan, excited for this week.
Yeah, welcome in, guys. As you guys are trickling in, shoot us a message in the chat. Let us know where you guys are from and what brings you guys here. Excited to get into it. This is another Wednesday webinar. We're here every week the same time. Super excited to be back, though.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll go over deals. We'll answer your questions. Anything you guys have, we're here to help bring as much value in these 30 minutes as possible.
That's the goal. The goal of this is to go over your questions. This is a Q&A. Let's go over your questions, go over anything you guys need. We're going to go over some deals. I think Ron has some deals lined up to go over, but let us know where you guys are from and what brought you guys here. Excited to get back to it. Welcome in, Joe Booth.
Welcome, Joe. Welcome, everybody, as you guys are getting in here. Put a quick message in the chat where you guys are from, what your land investing experience is. Really helpful for us direct this call in the right areas to bring as much value to you guys as possible.
Absolutely. Welcome in, Jeff. Welcome. Chicago, we got some Louisville, we got Montana. Very cool. Welcome, Jack.
We'll get a minute, Dan. Sometimes it takes a minute for the text to get out to everyone. Hey, Max.
Hey, Max, Evan Beck, Washington and Hawaii. Very cool. Charlotte, North Carolina. Got people all over the place here. Max is over in Italy. We got international. Very cool. All right, guys, we're going to get into it here shortly. If you guys have questions, get them in the chat. Let us know where you're from, like I said. And Ron's going to get a deal up. We're going to review maybe a past deal today. Don't know if that's on the agenda. I know people like to see the past deal reviews and seeing the numbers and what went right, what went wrong, all that kind of stuff. But trying to provide the most value in land possible these next 30 minutes or so. Got Vancouver, another international. Houston, Maria in Tampa. I'm also in the Tampa Bay area. Maria. Alex, welcome in from Grand Rapids.
All right, let me get a deal up real fast, Dan. If we have any questions, get your questions in the chat, guys, so we can, like I said, provide as much value to you guys as possible. It's gonna be a deal that a member brought us that I'm going to go over here in a minute. Let me just get it up for you guys, and then we'll get started.
Awesome. Welcome in. Excited to have everyone here. Got Alabama. We got Charlotte. Got Benito up in Cincinnati. Very cool. All right, going to get started here. Ron's going to pull up another deal. But if you guys have questions from anything, and also I'm curious, guys, what's your guys' experience? I know I saw Max in here and many others, but for those who are newer to the land game, what is your guys' experience? Is this your first call you've been in? What do you know about land? Or beginner, expert? Let us know in the chat as well so we know where to take this call.
All right, let me get this up real fast. Share my screen for you guys. If you guys have any questions as we're going through, we're going to review a deal here real fast. If you guys have questions, please let us know in the chat so we can be as valuable as possible for you guys. So we are in, let me pull the county up. Hold on one second. Logan County, Oklahoma. Looks like we have 20 acres here. Looks like really solid land here, but 20 acres. Let me double check the acreage. 20 acres, and they're under contract for $39,500. First thing we always do, we're on id.land. This is how we review land. We always kind of look at what the land looks like. Just a quick eye test. Like, what does the land look like? I mean, this is A+ land before I put on any of the overlays, Dan. Like, we have double-sided road frontage, so a ton of opportunities with this. Partially cleared, partially we probably have a creek going through here, maybe a small pond back here. So, I mean, this land kind of has it all.
This is really, really nice land. A ton of road frontage. It does look like the parcels nearby are decent size. So the first thing I was wondering about subdividing, definitely an option depending on the ordinance and county and everything. But most of the parcels in that area are bigger size anyways. But this is really, really solid land for sure. You see this type of land more out in Oklahoma and the West, more so than the East Coast where they chop it up all funny. This is very standard shape size land out West. They're perfect rectangle squares most of the time, just like this.
Yeah, I mean, this land, it's the county north of Oklahoma City, so we're not that far from like an urban area. Yeah, so we have this creek going through. Let me just pull up the other stuff. Let's see if there's any slope. I doubt there's much. Okay, so there is more slope than I realized, or than I thought there would be, but this still is not even, like, this is rolling slope at most. This is 10 feet. These are feet above sea level. So we have 1030, 1020. So it's sloping down to the creek a little bit and then going back up, but not a huge concern. It just might be a little rolling down and then back up, but nothing concerning there.
No, definitely not. And the slope, those are estimates based on the contour lines, just show you, like Ron said, between each one of those yellow lines, it increases or declines 10 feet depending on which way you're going. Those are how you read the slope of an area.
Okay, so like I said at the beginning, yeah, exactly. Like I said at the beginning, this is a member who has a deal under contract for $39,500, and they just want to see if this deal makes sense. Like the land obviously checks out in terms of everything we can see on a computer. The next thing is like price, 39,500 buy price. With the way we do things is we buy and resell. We're not necessarily assigning these. We're not necessarily double closing these. We're trying to see what the market value is. We're trying to double our money on these deals, and that's the opportunity within land investing. But I'm going to pull up on Zillow, and when looking to see if price makes sense on a deal, you want to find comps. Ideally, sold comps are the best, and similar acreages for sure. So when you guys are comping out land, and I had a video last week, a detailed video on comping land, you need to look at the acreage size, and you just need to look at nearby comps as best as possible. But we're off of this highway, Dan, to the east of Guthrie. 39.5. I really don't know the pricing around this area. I assume one county removed from Oklahoma City, we would be fine, right?
And what size and price are we in again?
This 20 acres, 39.5. And you always want to have in mind what the cost of the cost of closing costs, which is going to be anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Jeezel. Jumping off the bat here, so trying to find acreages that are close to ours. 10 acres is not close to ours. This price is amazing. Like, this price makes me feel good. I think this might be an outlier. I don't know if there's structures on it, but that seems high. But just kind of looking at things around our price. Here's 17 acres for $70,000. If this is the land, I don't know what this is exactly, Dan. I don't know if everything else is the land. That's what I think it is. I think this is a 20-acre parcel, and then someone else owns this, is my guess. I don't think this is a great comp. I think this is a bad land. You can see all the utility easements, or you might be able to see it. There are utility easements going all the way through here. So I don't think this is a like-kind comp by any means.
Yeah, exactly. So when we're looking, the first thing we did was look at the actual property. So we looked at the property first. Property was really solid, no issues, had a pond, square, not much slope at all. So we looked at that, and then now Ron's looking at the price. That's the second thing we look at. And like he said, with the price, what he's doing, he's scrolling through here, trying to find the most like kind comp. And by like kind, I mean a couple things. I mean the location, like how close is it relevant to ours? So you want the closer location, the closer the size, and the closer the geography, the actual land, the better. So you want to start like the best comp is your comp, right? And you want to get as close to your specific piece of land as possible. And that's what Ron's doing, kind of going through comparing these different data points.
Yeah, so we are, I just found this comp looking through. I was looking at like kind of acreages, like Dan's saying. This is $4,000 an acre this sold for. The thing to keep an eye on with this property is like, this was first listed 18, 20 months ago, overpriced. They listed it. This deal is going to work out, Dan. We have 20 acres for $39.5. Like, I think on the low end, like $80,000. I think on the high end, like you might be talking like 110 to 120. Like these are legitimate comps. Let's see what's for sale, actually, Dan, because I did not do that. Let's see what we're competing with. So we have multiple 10 acres on the market that are overpriced. And I kind of know these are overpriced based on the interest on Zillow. 10 acres for 110. Here's another 10 for 110. Just not much interest at that price point. 15 for 129 sitting. So yeah, my guess, again, 19 for 120. My guess is like 90 to 100 grand, Dan.
I think so too. And if you go back, there's a civil engineer in here. Who was it who said that? I think it was Adam from Austin, Texas. And he was talking about how he does subdivides and things like that on the technical side. So I do want to talk about that because this could be a play for that, but I want to show the area and show why it's not a play for this specific one for a major subdivide. I know he wasn't speaking on this specific parcel, but one thing we do a lot is subdivides, and we do a lot of minor subdivides that don't create a lot of technical issues. Just really simple transactions where we're going to quadruple our money. They're very straightforward for the most part with how we do it. But as you see, zoom out a little bit more so you can see all the properties nearby are fairly big. Like maybe you can split it in half if you want to get a little bit more. Zoom in, see if you can find any subdivisions around there. There's not really any real subdivisions around here. If this property had tons and tons of subdivisions, that's one right there. That's actually a really good example. That's more of a major subdivision. and that is for sure an option. If there was more of those around, I don't know how new those homes are. It actually looks fairly
These are
new.
brand new.
But if you have more signs of that, that's where you might look in that direction. That's a good sign right there. If there's a couple of those, we're not diving into that right now necessarily, but that is a really good sign. That's one parcel away from yours.
What I would, at minimum, is call the county and ask about minor, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Because look at those 2 properties touching the corner of ours on the north. How big are those?
These are probably 2 acres.
Yeah, so
1 acre.
I think the demand's gonna be there for it for sure. It's just whether like some people, I mean, you're buying this at 39.5, right? You can resell this now for maybe $100,000 and make your money and get out. You want to put in the next owner might do that, or they might just keep it. You want to put some money into it, get a subdivision, get with the city, get everything entitled, all that stuff. You can make a boatload of money on properties like this if it makes sense. Or you can just split it into one or two, or 5-acre properties too, Ron. So you have multiple options. You have two-sided road frontage here.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with what I'm doing on here. There's some new tools on ID.land I got to play around with later, maybe, Dan, because there's a lot of new things that are going on here. So I got to figure out what's actually going on with that. But yeah, breaking this up into 4 or 5-acre parcels, I mean, you'll make easily $100,000, maybe more.
Yeah, I think probably more with what we're seeing in that area. Looks really hot. I don't know if you dove into any specific comps to see how quick things are moving. I'd be curious on that.
So if I win here, Joe, yeah, so there's most counties have minor and major subdivision requirements. Minor subdivision, and typically it's going to be minor subdivisions are going to be more in rural America. So I'm 1 county removed from a pretty major city. And then, so like if you type in Logan County, Oklahoma, minor, and this is what I'll do before I send mail. Like I want to know what's going on a lot of times, minor subdivision requirements. And a lot of times they're going to have it. Sometimes you need to call them, kind of ask like, okay, what needs to be done to break this up? If you have, like you're talking about, Joe, and you're talking about surveying, engineering, and you need all that, that's going to be considered a major subdivision. But a lot of the counties with good data, with a lot of the counties with good information will have stuff like this. And we'll talk about, I'm not going to go through everything on here, but it's going to talk, here it is actually, minor subdivision. This is section 329. So you would literally go to this and you read kind of the restrictions. I would also call the county to confirm, but a lot of times for minor subdivisions, all you need is a survey, and then they'll get the parcel IDs for you.
And then they'll get the parcel numbers and then file it. And we've done a lot of minor subdivisions. They're very straightforward. The major subdivisions definitely they can take a year plus for sure. I mean, when you start doing all that and you got to go through entitlements and things and get roads and engineering and all that good stuff.
A ton of money, but it's a different business model for sure.
It's just it's the same. It's a different business model in the same niche, essentially. Yes, it's still land investing for sure, but it's just a different game. Like, yeah, you can get there. A lot of people that join want to make money now. They want to make, $100,000 a month from land. And you're not going to do that by waiting 14 months for a major subdivision or anything. You can make, 60 grand off this parcel if you just want to flip it, 40, 50 grand off this parcel if you want to flip it right away, or do a minor subdivision, make 100,000. That's the game we're speaking. We do this high repetition. We do this over and over again. Major subdivides you can make a ton of money on, but they're a longer play for sure.
Evan Beck asked a little bit ago, how far will $5,000 to $10,000 in marketing budget go looking to send first set of mailers? You want to answer that, Dan?
5 to 10s, that would get you pretty far. That's a good amount of marketing money. I'd space it out for, 3, 4, 5 months potentially. If you I'd send 3 to 5,000, probably 3 to 5,000 mailers a month for the next 3 months or so. That's enough money for that. And that should yield you quite a few deals, hopefully, if you do it right. But you got to make sure you're, marketing correctly. If you're doing blind offers, you're pricing correctly. You got to make sure you're doing the sales game, everything. But on average, we get 1 deal per every 2,000 to 2,500 mailers. And our average profit per deal is about $25,000. Yep. So in mail, 65 cents right now. So if you work backwards, it takes $1,400 to get a deal that's going to net you 20 to 30 grand. That's just our average, but you got to answer the phones, be aggressive on sales, negotiations, all that good stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Niambaru, sorry if I'm saying that wrong. Do you have any special for anyone who wishes to join? We don't have any. All of our courses right now are sold out. we'll keep you guys updated, obviously. But right now, our big focus when we had an offer that came out last week, and we had 25 people join. And our big thing is onboarding correctly, making sure everyone's ready to go. And that's our focus right now. And we don't really want to onboard more people at the moment. So we are sold out currently of everything.
Yep, we'll keep you up to date on that. And then Adam asked, how long would it take on average to see your first real leads when starting out? Depends what route you go, Adam. So like the 3 routes there are, the 2 main routes are mail and texting. Texting, you can get real leads very, very quickly because you click a button, you set your stuff up, click a button, and then it sends out a bunch of text and text immediately. With mail, you're dealing with USPS and it's shipping from our mail service ships from Clearwater, Florida. So if you're on the West Coast, it can take a couple weeks to hit. So if you want leads, like it can take 2-3 weeks. If you're mailing, a week to get your business set up. Probably you send your mail within a week, and then you're looking, within 3 weeks or so, you'll have leads. If you're texting, get your business set up, and then you can start ripping text whenever, really. And then there's cold calling as well, which is also instant. So just depend the route you're going and what your plans are.
Yeah. And someone else asked that question about the money starting. We have our podcast tonight coming out on YouTube at 6 p.m. It'll be right after this, is about kind of starting with $5,000. So definitely, Evan Beck, give that a listen. That's a good place to start. But if you guys want us to go over another deal, hit that thumbs up button, Dan. I think that's the best way to do it. It gives us insight on where you guys want us to go. We'll do another deal, another 2 deals, something like that. We do have till 6 p.m. Eastern. Get your questions in there as well.
If you guys want to see another deal, hit that thumbs up button and hit that subscribe button. I'm monitoring it right now. We got 14 thumbs up. So hit that if you want to see it. If we don't get a lot of thumbs up, we'll just do a Q&A. But if you want to see us review another deal like we just did with that Oklahoma deal, go over the numbers, go over all the things that we're looking at when we're analyzing land, hit that thumbs up button.
Absolutely. Got 18 on there, Dan, I think. We'll give it another minute. Get your questions in there. Adam, thanks. But how do you go about getting subdivisions as my filter to calculate average price? I'm going to go back up to Juan's deal up here somewhere. Hi, everybody. I price a list based. I'm going to click this so you guys can see this. Hi, everybody. I price a list based on zip code average price per square foot. And I over offered by more than 50% in most cases. Is there anything available to find smaller areas like subdivision instead of zip? So yeah, I mean, I'm not overly versed in infill lots, Dan. If we're talking about price per square foot, I assume this is infill lots. If I was pricing infill lots, I would not do it price per square foot. I would almost have like flat offers for different ranges for like 0.1 to 0.2 acres and then 0.2 to 0.3, something like that. But if the range, you're definitely going to overprice the higher ones if you're literally going by price per square foot. But you can do it by subdivisions. It matters what data source you're getting from them.
Yeah, if you're doing infill lots, you'll have more, what am I trying to say, data points and sold comps than you will. So you can get as granular as the data allows you to run. And that's the answer. Like if you have enough data to go subdivision level, for sure, you go subdivision level. We do bigger, more expensive lots than infill lots. We're focused. I mean, our average property is 5 to 10 acres, but we go up to hundreds of acres and buy whatever. It's more rural and bigger properties. But infill lots, there's more data points with infill lots. When you're talking about 0.5 to 2 acre properties, you should be able to get down to the subdivision level if you want to. And in a lot of areas, it just depends what the data. You got to look at work with the data you have essentially.
Yeah, that's the most important thing. I think everyone wants a deal, Dan. That's what it sounds like. I see
a lot of overwhelming amount of thumbs up.
Hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button. But let's get to it. I got one up ready to roll. We are in Hickman County, Tennessee. So the notes I have on this one from the member, they said a couple of things. So one thing, they said that there's some overlay on this and they needed to do further due diligence on this. And they also said they negotiated down from $20,000 to $17,500 because the slope. So we'll take a look at the slope in a little more detail because I know some of you guys were asking about slope. So this will be a good example for that. So 17.5, I believe this is 5 acres. Let me click into it. 5.03 acres, 17.5 offer price. They're a little concerned about the slope still, even at 17.5. They said they couldn't get them any lower than that. They said they tried to get them down to 15, but let's see what we have here. So first, let's look at the slope, Dan, and see if it's as concerning as they are saying. These are 20-foot lines. Remember when I forget where we just were, Dan. We were in Oklahoma. Those were 10-foot contour lines. I'm going to zoom in here far so you guys can see, and I'll kind of tell you, this is 740 above sea level. This is 720. Each one of these lines is 20 feet of slope down. So it's sloping off the road. You can see, Dan, what we always look at with slope is what our nearby properties building on. This does appear to be one of the more sloped properties. Like you can see these lines are way farther apart here and here. Is that kind of your first thing you're looking at?
It is, but I don't think it's going to be that sloped. I think there's going to be plenty in the middle. Those lines are very, very
You think the
spaced out.
middle's the spot unless there's a creek or something?
Yeah, if these lines are accurate, I mean, we're relying on yellow lines to tell us what the property looks like. I've never been a big fan of that in general. The fact that the slope's not too far off, like, yeah, I think if you go back and go to the middle a little bit, it should be pretty good.
Yeah. Do you think it's going to affect the sale price?
I don't think it's going to be as bad as we think it's going to be. The fact that he's built on that top right next to our property, I mean, we could build
Right
on that
here?
bottom. Yeah.
Yeah, we could. That's a good point. Like we could theoretically build right here, and that's probably going to be
Can't be
pretty much
that far
the same
off.
slope.
It's not just going to drop out of nowhere.
I agree. But definitely, obviously, further due diligence on that. I think it's always like when you get, and we did a podcast today that we recorded today about defected property, like having defected property. Maybe this isn't even that defected, but having defected property, it gives you an opportunity to negotiate without a doubt. But let's go to our other water features. There's no wetlands, and I think I already clicked floodplain. So really, it's just the slope you need to get a second set of eyes on. But let's get to price, Dan. Let's see exactly where we are. So we're in Hickman County, northeast of Centerville. So let's see what we have.
Yeah, and the reason, guys, like if you guys were doing houses and we're analyzing housing prices, we get much more granular on this. The problem with land is there are not a lot of comps.
Yep.
And out of those comps, 80% of them are usually bad, whether they have a structure on it that says it's land or they were just not MLS. They weren't listed on the MLS. It's a public record. It's just, you got to work with what you have. I always say I take 2 to 3 good comps over 20 comps in general. Like just having a couple nearby very, very good comps is all you need in this business. But like land comps can get very, very scarce.
Yeah, so let's go to so we have 5 acres. I'm gonna go 2 to 10 on our filters, and let's see what the recent sold comps are. This is obviously not a good comp in terms of the price. And what I look at, like the quality of the land as well. I don't know if this is sloped or not. It's not an ideal shape. I'm not going to necessarily ignore this comp, but I do not think it's the best comp for us. So that's 4 for 25. Here's 5 for 99, which seems really high.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like a desirable area. Kind of like this one, Dan. Just looking at it, it seems like a pretty normal piece of land. It probably has some slope. You can actually see, which is nice, the contour lines that they have on here. So we have obviously less land than this. We have 5.03 acres. They have 7.2. So what I kind of do with stuff like this, what's that price per acre? Let's just calculate that price per acre. I'll just pull up the calculator on my computer. All right, so if we do what are we, $60,000? So this one sold for 60, and we have 7.27. What are your thoughts on that acreage range, Dan? Difference, like, is it going to change much price per acre?
It's 7.27 versus what?
Versus 5.03. It's going to be somewhat.
It will
right?
a little bit, but it's going to be very similar.
So then, if we multiply this is the price per acre for that comp. Then we multiply this by 5.03. Based on this, our market value is 41.5. I really, really like this comp. That's why I'm kind of going, because we know it's sloped, so there's a little bit of defect on this comp. Just seems like straightforward land in terms of similar to what we have, and they're all in for 17.5. Not all in, but their buy price is 17.5, 18.5 after closing, maybe 19. I think it makes sense, Dan. You just get eyes on that slope, though, right?
Yeah, I think getting eyes on that slope, I think that's a really good comp. What's that put our numbers at? We're buying for what?
That puts us at buy for 19 after closing costs, sell for 41.5 or so. I think it's going to be a little more than 41.5. Like Daniel said, like the price per acre, we're going to get a little more price per acre.
Than that comp too.
What'd you say?
I do think it's nicer land than that comp we have.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty darn sloped, honestly.
That's sloped and there's no property next. Like we have a property, and that's on a cul-de-sac. We have a property touching ours, essentially going over the lines a little bit, which just shows it's buildable right there. I think it's going to be nicer land than we think.
Yeah, I believe so. That appears to be a pretty solid
push
deal.
50 on this. I would not be surprised if you push 50.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either. Okay, we have about 5 minutes left, guys. Get your questions in there in the chat. If you guys have not already, hit that subscribe button. We have 3 to 4 videos coming out every single week, trying to bring as much value to you guys as possible. Let's see if we have any questions on here, Dan.
So Wealth asked about sending cold text, what the text to agreement ratio you guys are seeing across the community. It varies so much with texting. I'll try to get a better number for you by next Wednesday. if you bring that same question and try to collect some data, but it varies because texting is
Cold texting too.
code texting. The way we're teaching, code texting, the way we teach blind offers, we can give you a very strict formula on what works because you just need a price, right? And then you're going to get very, very qualified leads texting you or calling you and sending you the purchase agreement without even talking to you sometimes. With texting, there's so many variables, like your negotiation and what your funnel looks like in terms of how you're catering to those leads, what your follow-up process looks like. Texting can vary 10 to 1, literally. Like one guy can get one good lead per every couple hundred, and another can get one per every 2,000. Like it just varies based on your funnel and ability and on being on the phones.
Yeah, I completely agree. One thing also, Juan, is it matters where you're getting your data from this. You want a data source ideally when you're doing land. You want a data source with latitude and longitude because you can literally map out your things that you are sending mail to, and like you can put them in their own little pockets where you can get more in-depth pricing. I know I kind of went back to a question from 10 minutes ago, but I wanted to touch base because they're going back and forth on that a little bit. Camille said, I get a deal for every 2,000 piece of mail, but I do quite a bit of research and I work every lead to the bone. It's so important, everyone. But like we get about a deal for every 2,000 to 2,500 mailers. That's the same thing as most of our members. That's a $1,200 cost per deal essentially. And we average around $20,000 of profit per deal. And like Camille's saying in this, I'll put this up there. Like Camille's saying, working every lead is so darn important. If you're wasting leads or not willing to negotiate on leads, like you are going to lose tens of thousands of dollars every single year without a doubt. Maybe.
And that's one of the first things we do. Like when we're coaching and when we've done one-on-one coaching in the past, we analyze their efficiency of how they're getting leads, because some people just spin their wheels over and over and over and they're not getting anything. And blind offers is so good at just getting to the point, giving them a price, and it is so effective. We compared neutral letters to blind offers, and a neutral letter just doesn't have a price on it. And a blind offer is a letter with a price on it that we send mail. And we got this pretty much the same exact, I was looking back at that. We got pretty much the same exact response rate, just calls, inbound calls, which was very surprising because you'd think neutral would be to grasp a wider net essentially, but it wasn't necessarily the case. Dana had a question there, Ron. You want to read that?
Yeah, Dana said, hey guys, working on a mailer where I made the mistake of not checking quality of data before downloading lists. Looks like a bunch of parcels have inaccurate acreage compared to GIS and have structures on them. If you've dealt with this, is there any sort of offers, any sort of disclaimer you might put in the offers in case they're one of those properties that's off? You just have to have a conversation, like talk person to person, I think, honestly. Like, unfortunately, that situation happened. Yeah, but I think you just have to have conversations when you get those calls in and just be honest with them. And I would be honest and upfront when you get those. And I think
most of your data is hopefully going to be accurate unless it's a really messed up county. One thing Ron and I also created was a new software company that uses AI to make sure there's no structures on your vacant land. And we're going to be launching that soon. We have a beta right now.
I think Dana's in the beta.
Are you in the beta, Dana? That's a good question.
Pretty sure she is. Yeah, you can keep talking, Dan, about it.
Yeah, no, I was just saying we're trying to get rid of that problem of sending to structures and stuff. The acreages is based on what the county reports. That should usually be fairly accurate. One other thing you can check, Dana, is if your data gives you a parcel square feet footage that the county reports, also you can divide that by what, Ron?
45,360. 45,360 is how many?
45,360. You can divide the parcel square feet by that to get the acreage. There's a few different things you can get while analyzing your data and to figure that out. But yeah, you just have to be ready for those conversations. You can still get deals from that.
For sure. So, I mean, it's going to get you a lot of conversations. Unfortunately, like it's going to be some people are mad, some people, whatever. But like just being willing, like Camille said, being willing to have those conversations for sure. 43560. Is that right? 43560. I get that mixed up sometimes. Thank you, Wealth by Design. What are we at? We're at 5:59. If there's any last questions in here, get them in real fast. We have another minute. Again, guys, we do this every Wednesday at 5:30 to 5:30 p.m. Eastern time to bring as much value to you guys as possible. If you guys haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. I'll get another second, Dan. And if nothing comes in, we will end it there.
Yeah, and members, we have our member call here that we're hopping into in a moment. So if you're a member, hop in there. Other than that, please, guys, we try to bring as much value to these as possible. Hit the subscribe button. It really helps drive land in our mission forward.
Do you recommend having an LLC or other entity for this? LLC is ideal. Like, what is it? Sole proprietorship, Dan? What single owner?
Yeah, I mean, it's ideal. You can, you don't need one necessarily at first, but yeah, it's never a bad idea.
Cool. Other than that, guys, we will see you next week, 5:30. If you guys are a member, hop in the member.